Hello, I'm Declan Curry. Small businesses are the engine of commerce, and there's no better way to understand what makes that engine tick than to hear from the business leaders who are in the driving seat. This is Spotlight. When we think of a navy or a naval fleet, we almost certainly conjure up the image of mighty seagoing vessels, of a convoy of powerful and awe-inspiring ships patrolling our oceans. We perhaps don't think of the individual ships as collections of parts. But that is what our guest on Spotlight today does think. For the last 30 years, Leafield has been storing and recycling the spares from naval vessels. John Webster is its chief executive. John, welcome to Spotlight. An intriguing business model, this. How did it all come about?
Leafield came about 30 years ago to solve a problem for the UK MOD. So the Royal Navy would have a fleet of ships that were going to be replaced by the next new fleet that was coming along. So they would look to sell those ships to another navy. Those navies would have enough money to buy the ships, but probably not enough money to buy the warehouse full of spares that the UK MOD was sitting on. But at the same time, the UK MOD needed the space that those spares were occupying to put the spares for the new ships that were coming in. So Leafield was created to act as a buffer between the MOD and the navies that had bought the ships.
And your customers are those navies in other nations?
Absolutely. So 95% of what we sell goes to overseas navies.
Of course, each new generation of warships is so much more technically brilliant than the one it replaces. Is there a risk in your business of obsolescence?
There is a very real risk of obsolescence. The big difference with the navies that we're trying to work with are they aren't necessarily aiming to be right at the leading edge of technology. And they're actually very comfortable with the current base level if we can maintain that, either through fixing the things that break or reverse engineering a slightly more modern solution that will solve the problem of an obsolete component but keep the systems at their current level.
What sets you out from the pack?
So I think there are probably three key things that we've got that are differentiators. The first one is relationships, and that trust that's built through that long-term relationship is very important. The second point is that we are very agile. We're a small organisation. So if someone rings up and I pick up the phone and they say, "Can you do this?" we sit round over a cup of coffee and we decide and we get on with it. But we can be agile commercially too. Because we don't have that big corporate structure, if someone rings us up and says, "Can you do this?" and it's not the way we'd normally do it, we just take a view on it. We say, "Yeah, all right, we can do that. We can still make some money out of it, we'll do it." And I think the third thing is that it's much easier for us to be innovative. If you're an original equipment manufacturer, an OEM, and you've invested billions of pounds in developing, let's say, a new engine, it's absolutely in your interest to stick with that design. You don't want to mess with it. It's much easier to control, to manage, to maintain, to support if everything stays exactly the same. We're not bothered whether it stays the same. We want to give you the best engine we can. So we do other things that actually improve it. But it makes sense for us to try and offer the customer the best thing that we can, and the customers love it.
Well, let's talk a bit more about innovation. Tell me what's happening.
You mentioned that obsolescence is a potential problem on ships, and it absolutely is. It's an issue at multiple levels. So you can have let's say, a circuit card that fails, and there are no spare circuit cards. Okay, so that's a challenge. So what we will do is redesign a modern version of it, but we can design a new solution to solve an obsolescence problem. So, we can give them something better and newer for less money.
John, thinking about how you've led your business, thinking about the business and economic climate that we're currently in, what are the important lessons that people should keep in mind?
I think that understanding of what the customers want and understanding what the problem is they're trying to solve, because that's the starting point for us in designing a solution. As an SME, we can't provide the whole breadth of offering that a big PLC can. However, there are lots of SMEs out there, and collectively we can put together a really, really good offering, sometimes much faster and much cheaper than the big PLCs can. But based on those relationships that we've got, we're able to do that integration piece, which is really powerful.
John Webster, it's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much for being with us, and thank you for watching Spotlight.